Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrijanarandana Yashodanandana Vrijanarandana Yashodanandana Vrijanarandana Yashodanandana Vrijanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Hari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Girivardhari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Harijanarandana Yashodanandana Harijanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol. हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत्. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ॐ भगवते वासुदेवाय, ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, भगवते वासुदेवाय. Reading from 6th Canto, Chapter 4, verses 49 and 50. Okay, some time to adjust here. It's a little easier for me to read this. सवयद महादेवो मम वीर महादेवो मम वीर्योपभ्रमितः योपभ्रमितः मेनेऽखिलम् इवात्मानम् उद्यतः स्वर्गकर्मणि अथा मे भीतो देवस् था मे भीतो देवस् तपोतप्यत दारुणाम् नवविश्वसृजो युष्मान् येनादाव अष्टजद्विभू स वै यदा महादेवो मम वीर्योपभृमतः वीर्य उपभृमतः ओके मेनेऽखिलम् इवात्मानम् उद्यत स्वर्गकर्मणि अथा मे विहितो देवस् तपोतप्यत दारुणाम् नवविश्वसृजो युष्मान् येनादावाश्रजद्विभुः One more time. स वै यदा महादेवो मम वीर्य उपभ्रमितः मेनेऽखिलम् इवात्मानम् उद्यत स्वर्गकर्मणि अथा मे विहितो देवस् तपोतप्यत दारुणाम् नवविश्वसृजो युष्मान् येनादावाश्रजद्विभुः Saha, that Lord Brahma. Why? Indeed. Yada, when. Mahadevaha, the chief of all the demigods. Mama, my. Virya upabhrimataha, being increased by the potency. Mene, thought. Khilam, incapable. Iva, as if. Atmanam, Atmanam, himself. Udyataha, attempting. Swarga karmani, in the creation of the universal affairs. Atha, at that time. Me, by me. Abhitaha, advised. Devaha, that Lord Brahma. Tapaha, austerity. Atapyatha, performed. Darunam, extremely difficult. Nava, 9. Vishwasrijaha, important personalities to create the universe. Yusman, all of you. Yena, by whom. Adau, in the beginning. Ashrajat, created. Vibhuhu, the great. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When the chief lord of the universe, Lord Brahma, Swayambhu, having been inspired by my energy, was attempting to create, he thought himself incapable. One more time. When the chief lord of the universe, Lord Brahma, Swayambhu, having been inspired by my energy, was attempting to create, he thought himself incapable. Therefore, I gave him advice, and in accordance with my instructions, he underwent extremely difficult austerities. Because of these austerities, the great Lord Brahma was able to create 9 personalities, including you, to help him in the functions of creation. Nothing is possible without tapasya. Lord Brahma, however, was empowered to create this entire universe because of his austerities. The more we engage in the austerities, the more we become powerful by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, Rishabdev advised his sons, Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhayet. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified. Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 1, teachings of Lord Rishabdev. In our material existence, we are impure, and therefore we cannot do anything wonderful. But if we purify our existence by tapasya, we can do wonderful things by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, tapasya is very important as stressed in this verse. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sapadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Litha Shri Vishakhanvitam Sya He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vashalam, pangum langhayate girim, yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinacharanam. One more time, translation. When the chief lord of the universe, Lord Brahma, Swayambhu, having been inspired by my energy, was attempting to create, he thought himself incapable. Therefore, I gave him advice, and in accordance with my instructions, he underwent austerity, extreme difficult austerities. Because of these austerities, the great Lord Brahma was able to create 9 personalities, including you, to help him in the functions of creation. It's a beautiful verse. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam with all of you. And I'll share something from for my own purification. So just briefly, a little bit of the context. Lord Vishnu, he is speaking to Prajapati Daksha. Prajapati Daksha was engaged in performing austerities for a long time. And Lord Vishnu, he personally comes and he gives him his association. And part of his association, as a part of his association, he is giving him instructions. So here, he is sharing, before this verse, some of the verses that we read, Lord Vishnu is sharing how he is in charge of creation. He is the overall in charge of creation. The Bhagavatam, it has 10 main topics. 2 of them are Sarga and Visarga. Sorry. So Sarga is what the Supreme Lord does. He is the cause of all creation. He is the cause of all causes. And Visarga is what Lord Brahma he does, and in turn, Lord Brahma, as we see here, he doesn't do it himself, he is assisted by others. So, briefly, this is what's happening. And Prajapati Daksha, he is one of the progenitors. So, he is helping Lord Brahma perform his service. So, this is perfect, the first point. The mood here of das das anadas, the servant to the servant to the servant. So Lord Brahma, one can say, he is the servant, of Lord Vishnu. Prajapati is a servant of his servant. This is the consciousness. And Lord Vishnu is instructing, just in the translation, is instructing Prajapati Daksha about many things. So firstly, he's saying Lord Brahma, who is the cause of Prajapati Daksha, he was inspired. Like this is there in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, if you want to read it, the 9th chapter, 10th chapter. We all know how Lord Brahma, he found himself, on this lotus flower, and he tried to find the root of of his existence, and that culminates with Lord Brahma understanding who he is, who is Lord Vishnu, and then he has an impetus to create. And here Lord Vishnu is saying, so he was inspired, but then he found himself incapable of doing that service. So this is another important point. We may feel very, very inspired by many, many things in devotional service. And if we were just to charge into our services, based on our inspiration, firstly feeling very capable, not I guess performing the proper austerities, will be finished. So here Lord Brahma, who is the most intelligent being, the first created being, Lord Vishnu is saying he felt himself incapable. And so Lord Vishnu is cautioning Prajapati Daksha that Lord Brahma, he felt himself incapable. And then Lord Vishnu is very, very compassionate, reciprocating with Lord Brahma's mood. He says, I advised him then. I advised him. So he had an inspiration to do some service, but he found himself unqualified, incapable. So I empowered him. I advised him. And my instructions, my advice is my empowerment. So one specific advice that he gave was to perform austerities, tapaha. That's the word that Brahma heard. Tapaha, tapaha. That's all he heard. So this is another beautiful point here. So Lord Vishnu, he is saying that he advised Lord Brahma to perform austerities. Then the Lord Brahma, he took up those austerities and then he executed his service. So this is very, very important. We are not Lord Brahma, neither are we Prajapati Daksha, but we do have some service. We are not irrelevant. We are insignificant, but we are not irrelevant in the plan of Krishna. And this is a topic that touches the heart of all devotees. In the Christian world, it's called what is my calling. So we all have a service. We all have a service in the plan of the Lord. And how that becomes clearer and clearer. It's like initially the vision is very, very foggy. It's not so clear. But then as we perform Krishna consciousness, the activities of Krishna consciousness, beginning with chanting, hearing, and doing some practical service, tad viddhi pranipatena pariprasthena sevaya, so the thing becomes clear. The first thing that we have to understand is Jivera Swarupa Hoya. Krishna Nitya Das. This is my eternal position, that I'm a servant of Krishna. So initially, when we begin the Krishna consciousness movement, we should be happy to just be engaged in any service, you know, and the more menial, the better. And if you hear the story of all of our disciples of Prabhupada, when they all began cleaning the bathrooms and washing the pots and so on and so forth, and now they are the leaders, world leaders of the Hare Krishna movement. So they didn't begin sitting on the Vyasasan giving classes. So they began, as they say, in the trenches, you know, menial, service, menial seva. This is a theme. Even Shamananda was engaged by Jiva Goswami. A simple service, of course, Seva Kunj. Seva Kunj, we are here. Seva Kunj. He gave him a service to clean the Kunj where Radha and Krishna would perform pastimes. It's just a very simple labor, sweeping, making the place clean. But Shamananda Pandit, he did it with his heart. He invested his heart fully. So much so that he found a small ankle bell, which was of Srimati Radharani, and so one of her associates, Lalita Devi, she came. Skipping many details, she came for the ankle bell. Yeah. So he got the association of Lalita Devi, and then Srimati Radharani. He was taken to the spiritual realm through that simple and menial service. We hear Narottam Das Thakur serving his spiritual master Lokanath Goswami. He was a king, he was a prince, Narottam Das Thakur. But he did menial service to his spiritual master. The list goes on and on and on. So initially, we should be very happy to just be engaged in any service. Dashu Asmi, please engage me as you like. And then as we purify ourselves through this process of Krishna consciousness, then the spiritual master or the Vaishnavas may say, Prabhu, thank you very much. You washed the pots for 10 months now. We need you for Sankirtan. Let's go on Sankirtan. Yeah. So this is a very important thing. Where, of course, it's not that we, repress our nature, but we have to understand that actually our nature is to serve Krishna. That's our nature. And then what we sometimes so get caught up with, what is my nature, is actually the psychophysical nature. But then, yesterday I was having a discussion with the devotee. We don't even have a proper understanding of our psychophysical nature. Especially in the Kali Yuga, everything is upside down, topsy-turvy. You know, guna karma. So even the varnashram system is not there, really. So even the psychophysical nature, we are not really in touch with the psychophysical nature. But as we perform devotional service, what happens is our spiritual nature, it shines through, and our psychophysical nature also, it becomes a little more clear what's our psychophysical nature. And of course, the Vaishnavas that know us, they also help us identify our psychophysical nature. Then they may say, Prabhu, the spiritual master may say, could you do this service? So then, as Prabhupada says, the spiritual master says, do this service, that's your life and soul. If he says, leave that, do this, that's your service. One time some disciple was asking Prabhupada, is it okay to be attached to the service, to one service? Prabhupada said, yes. But if the spiritual master says, leave service A, do service B, then we do it. So essentially, the attachment is to the spiritual master or Krishna service, not so much to the service itself. That's how we should be. I mean, the Vaishnavas, we are malleable. So, as we are moving along in devotional service, based on the needs of the movement, the needs of the association, the local sangha that we are living in. Based on that, the Vaishnavas and the spiritual master engage us in service, and we should be happy to take part in that for our purification. And this is, the austerity that Rishabdev is talking about. 551, you can read it. It's a very beautiful purport. It's quite amazing. Rishabdev's teachings are considered to be, very powerful and heavy and beautiful. This is where he begins. The first verse itself he begins like, up there. Essentially, in the purport, Prabhupada says that this, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is available in all forms of life. And the human form of life is very, very rare. It's very rarely achieved. And as we see, it's very austere in the lower life forms. Life is very, very austere. But Rishabdev is saying, but this human form of life, you perform tapo divyam, intense austerity. Not intense, transcendental austerity. You perform that, by which your existence will be purified, your heart will be purified. So he's encouraging his sons to engage in transcendental austerity. And Prabhupada says this is transcendental austerity, this movement of Krishna consciousness. That's what is this transcendental austerity. And he gives the example in the purport, which is like right on, way back in the 70s, but even now it's, I think, more relevant. Prabhupada says, a man, he drives, 3 hours to get to work. Then he works from 9 to 5. Again, he comes back 3 hours. And then, he eats, sleeps, and then he has a little bit of, sex life. Prabhupada is very direct. He says, so for that, little sex life, he is performing so much austerity, which is freely available in all the other forms of life. So in that purport, is writing. So this human form of life should not be wasted, in such a way. It should be engaged, for Krishna consciousness. It should be engaged like that. So that's one point. Oh, many points. And then he's also, so this translation itself, he said, he gave him advice. Therefore, I gave him advice, and in accordance with my instructions, he underwent extremely difficult austerities. So this is the heart, the spiritual master and disciple. Lord Brahma is the first, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. He is the original preceptor. So he's showing us how he's acting as a disciple. He felt himself insignificant, incapable. He wanted to serve the Lord, but he could not find any qualifications. And the Lord understood his heart, and he gave him the instruction, the spiritual master gave him instruction. He took the spiritual master instructions of his life and soul, and he carried them out. And because of these great austerities, the great Lord Brahma was able to create 9 personalities, including you, to help him in the functions of creation. So again, as Nityananda Prabhu was sharing yesterday, the Supreme Lord is independent. He doesn't need anything outside of him to create. Even what the ingredients are his, the potencies are his. So he doesn't need anything outside of him to create. But we are all conditioned, we're all limited living beings. So we need others also. So here he's saying, Lord Brahma, even he could not do the service himself. So if we are in some illusion that I will do the service myself, we are in illusion if we think that we can do the service ourselves. We need cooperation. We need others. So here he's saying the Lord Brahma, he in turn, then he created 9 personalities who helped him in the service. And so this goes on actually. And so the Prajapati Daksha also here, as Prabhu was sharing yesterday. So he receives a wife. from Lord Vishnu, who helps him create. So again, we are in big time illusion to think that we move the world. There are so many people that are connected. You know, this has been my realization. Also, just I've been worshiping Kishori the last month or so, and I do the 4 o'clock arati. It's a short 8 minute arati, right? but so many things are happening. So many devotees are involved, behind the scenes for that 4 minute arati, for example. So I just take a shower and come here, and then I pick up the fruits from the refrigerator. Okay. So some devotee here, you know, some devotees, they must have gone to purchase that bhoga, right? Or somebody may have donated the bhoga. Either way, some devotees went to purchase the bhoga. Some devotees may have donated, are donating for that bhoga to be purchased. That, and then some devotees are helping the bhoga to be, on Saturday morning or whenever we do it, Thursday morning, I don't know. All the bhoga comes in, and devotees, put the bhoga in the refrigerator. So many devotees, unload the truck and put it in the fridge. That. And then when I come in the 2:30 in the afternoon, Bhakta Terence, he's washing the pots. That. Yeah. And then, I offer sweets. So somebody's making the sweets every day, every week. And I just go into the fridge and, pick up, 16 pieces and put them on the plate and offer. So just, for, one small service, seemingly small service, there is hours and hours of service of devotees. There are so many devotees involved. And then when I come 4 o'clock, Vaishnava Sevananda Prabhu, he's here, and he's, cleaning the temple floor every day. So it's not just happening, by magic chance. So there are devotees involved, doing, different things. So even, so if I'm in illusion, if I'm thinking, well, I'm doing the 4 o'clock arati, by myself, there are so many devotees facilitating, my service. So we are connected beings. We all are, playing an important role in everybody, each and everyone's Krishna consciousness. So it's no, we're not irrelevant. We are important. Not like in a false sort of way, but everyone counts. Everyone counts. The devotees that are doing the gardening outside, nicely they're maintaining Kishore garden. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go into a list here, but the point I'm making here is to just have this have the worship of Kishori or any service going year after year after year, decade after decade. It has many devotees have given their life for many years. So this is another point here. So we need each other's help to practice Krishna consciousness. So we have to do our service, and then if we have the capacity, you know, if we have the desire, we will have the capacity to see how we can enhance other service, even if it is just words. So there are at least 4 ways: pranair, arthair, dhiya, vacha. So if nothing, at least some words of encouragement, or some practical service like that. Having something that give something that we have, artha, dhiya, intelligence. Invest, consciousness. Sit down with the devotee, discuss how the service could be done. Like if I have a service, how it could be done, in a better way or that. So we can give our intelligence. So we all can contribute, something or the other. That, that's another point. Okay. No, I've not even gotten to the purport yet. Purport. Nothing is possible without tapasya. Lord Brahma, however, was empowered to create this entire universe because of his austerities. The more we engage in austerities, the more we become powerful by the grace of the Lord. So obviously, this austerity is not uh, the austerity like Hiranyakashipu performed. In Bhagavad Gita, I will refer to that. In the 17th chapter, the divisions of faith, Krishna talks about austerity and penances in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance. So here we are not talking about austerity in the mode of passion or ignorance. So there are many examples we can give of people who performed austerities and their heart was not purified. In fact, the opposite was accomplished. They became more proud, of their borrowed plumes. But the in a way the prayojana, the litmus test of our austerity is our heart becoming pure or not? Our service, whatever services we are doing, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and services, are we becoming pure? Are we becoming cleansed? Or are we putting on more dirt, by becoming proud of whatever we are doing? So that's the proof of our austerity. And Krishna actually mentions in verses that not even beauty, knowledge, pronunciation, opulence, too much, even too much hearing, austerity, he cannot be known by all these things. Only unto those whom he chooses to show his favor, he can be known. So we cannot capture Krishna. That. So this is the contemplation, even in the Damodar pastime. So they're thinking, wow, Lord, Mother Yashoda, the sages, the jnanis, they are, for millions and millions of years, on the dint of their austerities, they are trying to, get, capture Krishna or have Krishna. And here is Mother Yashoda, she is just, binding Krishna. Krishna is allowing her to bind him. So when he chooses, and why would he choose to be bound by somebody? He only chooses to be bound by a pure devotee, as it is mentioned in Act of Devotion. Yeah. So the test for austerity, Krishna consciousness, is whether our heart is getting purer, and there are symptoms by which we can tell that. And this 551 is a beautiful verse which Prabhupada quotes. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhayed yasmad brahma saukhyam tva anantam. Prabhupada quotes this quite often. So, so this brahma saukhyam tva anantam. So he's talking about, in a nutshell, this is also the Chetodarpanam, the first verse of Shikshashtakam. Yeah. Chetodarpanam bhava mahadavagnirvapanam shriyakairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavado jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamrita shwadat sarvatmasnapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Charanam. So tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhayet. So the heart becomes purified. So chetodarpanam mahadavagnirvapanam. Then anandam buddhivardhanam. So here Lord Rishabdev is saying that you perform this divine austerity, Krishna consciousness, and you will come to a stage of Anandam Buddhivardhanam, unending, Ananda, Satchidananda, unending bliss. It's not this material happiness that keeps eluding. So this is what it is. And Krishna consciousness, of course, one doesn't perform Krishna consciousness, to enjoy one's, so to speak. But the devotional service of the Lord, because one is in contact with the reservoir of pleasure, Rama, one feels, the pleasure. Susukham kartam avyayam, like even there in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned. Mm. So as we engage in devotional service, we feel, the happiness that the soul is looking for. Of course, there are some, roadblocks. We have to go through the stages of bhakti, Adar Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti. That. So sometimes in the stages of, as we begin to chant the holy name, then all these anarthas, they come to the surface. It's like cleaning the room that has not been cleaned for a long time. So it's very, very disturbing. It's very, very, not encouraging. When we are in the midst of that cleaning, there's so much, is flying around. But if we keep our, consciousness fixed on, how the room will be after we are done with cleaning, then we can stay the course. So similarly, so this, dealing with the anarthas that come to our attention because of chanting Hare Krishna, to deal with them is also our devotional service. Otherwise, those anarthas, they impede our devotional service. So a devotee joyfully he addresses, that also. He takes them on in the company of devotees. He doesn't, shy away or put it off or close his eyes and hope that it goes away. But when he has the company of devotees, meeting those challenges is also a joyful experience. So he takes them on joyfully. So Krishna consciousness is blissful, not without its challenges. Its challenges will be there. But when we have the company of devotees, then even meeting those challenges is blissful. So it's blissful in the beginning. Most of us experience this. The first 5-6 months of a Krishna consciousness, they say that was the best time of my Krishna consciousness. And then, we face, well, the holy name is working. It's not that, the holy name is not, it's exactly working. It's working right on plan, on time. Yeah. So everything is happening as it should. So as we chant the holy name, then all this, unwanted things that we have never seen before, they come to the surface. Then we address them, deal with that. Then we go further, nishtha. So then there is a happiness that comes from being fixed in one service, day in, day out, day in, day out, guarding for pride, because then that spoils everything. So now I can become very proud that I'm very regulated, I very pakka about my service, and we fall down. And then higher ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. So it's blissful in the beginning, intermediate, although it doesn't seem like it, and then. And this is the austerity that Rishabdev is encouraging his sons to take. We are being asked to take. One just quick point from Bhagavad Gita. So just so we have a little more, we have heard all these things, but now so we can ground ourselves and really look at, identify, homework, possible homework, identify one or two areas of our life, where we can practice this principle of tapasya. And Krishna mentions in 17th chapter, there are there is austerity of the body, austerity of speech, austerity of the mind. I'm just going to read the translation. Very beautiful. 17th chapter, verse 14. Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. So this is tapaha, austerity of the body. So you can read the purport. That's, that's austerity of the body. Then this is a little harder. Austerity of the speech. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic scriptures, literature. Austerity of speech. Austerity of the mind, the most difficult one. And so you're saying satisfaction, santushta, satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So we can identify, Bhagavad Gita distills it. Within, there is a broad, of course, broad austerity is to take up the principles of Krishna consciousness. The whole world is moving in the opposite direction, and some of us, are committed to practicing Krishna consciousness. So it's not easy. You know. So we have taken that austerity, but just so, but also then to drill down further. You know, what are some of the things that we need to pay attention to, individually? So for some, it may be austerity of speech, and again, a particular kind of austerity. They may be reciting a lot of Vedic literature, for example, but then their speech may not be, proper. It's not palatable. So then they have to focus on that particular austerity. For some, they may be doing all this, but then they may not be reciting, Shastra. So that may be an austerity we need to take up. That austerity of the body, similarly, Devadvija, worship of the Supreme Lord, Guru Prajna, Devadvija, Guru Prajna, Pujanam, Saucham Arjavam, worshipping the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master. So the spiritual master one may have regard, but then other devotees, one may be lacking in that. Oh, so then that's an austerity somebody has to perform. Similarly, the austerity of the mind. So, an invitation to identify, one or two areas. We cannot focus on more than one or two, but just really focus on one or two and stick to it, for the next 6 months, 12 months consistently. And we will find that even one area, if we try to apply consistently, I mean, many of these areas are interconnected. So we will, in a way, purify other areas as well. It's not like you need to focus on this and that and that and this, but stay focused on one. They are interconnected, and it's easier to, measure and monitor that. And if you have some devotees in your life, so there is, you do it yourself, but even better if you have somebody in your life, share with them and work as a team. Okay. So this is 17th chapter, verses 14, 15, and 16, Bhagavad Gita. We'll pause there. So it's a very nice and a deep topic. Thank you very much. Any discussion, any comments, questions? Yes, Prabhu.
You discussed how we're insignificant, but we're not irrelevant. If you could clear that up.
Speak into my. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. That's on.
All right. You talked about how we're insignificant, but we're not irrelevant. If you could clear that up.
Okay. So the question is, could we discuss a little more about how we are insignificant, but we are not irrelevant? Okay. Irrelevant. Irrelevant. Well, we can take the example of the different parts of your body also, of our body, right? So each part of the body, it is performing a specific function. Prabhupada gives us a beautiful example, story of, the different limbs of the body, they're going on strike. You know that one? Yeah? So one time, the different parts of the body, the hands and the legs, you know, and the eyes and so on and so forth, they say that why does the stomach always have to enjoy? Why does he have to be always in the center? Why can't I be in the center? So they say, we'll go on strike. We will not cooperate with the stomach. So the hands, they stop, doing their things. The legs, they don't do their functions. But what happens is, then they find that they are actually, losing energy. They're not able to function properly. Then they come to realize, oh, actually, the stomach, he is serving all of us. So we are serving the stomach by, the hand is serving the stomach by putting the food into the mouth. But then the stomach is not just the enjoyer. The stomach does its function. It digests the food, and then it, you know, gives the energy to all the parts of the body. So they understand that, oh, we also have, a role to play. So then they work cooperatively with the stomach. So like that. So similarly, each one of us, we may have different, capacities. Well, for example, right now, when you have some friends here, right? Uh, you do some services at the temple. Yeah. So of course you can say, well, I mean, if I don't do it, somebody else will do it, right? That could be, yeah. In that, in a sense, Krishna's service will go on. If I don't do it, somebody else will. But that still doesn't mean that I'm irrelevant. You follow? Uh, there is a specific role, that I have been, called to perform, and that's I have to do that. That's one. Even from mundane perspective. Another is, the higher perspective is, well, each one of us is a part and parcel of Krishna, right? So each one of us, we have a relationship with Krishna. So actually, the pure devotees, the Mahabhagavata devotees, that's why they are seeing that their vision is that, wow, the way, Michael, the way Michael can serve Krishna, even I cannot serve Krishna. That's something very unique between Mike and Krishna. Follow. And similarly, Manoj and Yatasha Krishna. So each one of us, Krishna, he's unlimitedly, he can enjoy unlimitedly. And so he expands himself into unlimited living entities so he can have an exchange of love with them. So, anyway, not to get too proud of ourselves, but yes, even me, you know, can give pleasure to Krishna. That's not, so that's real humility. That I have a relationship with Krishna. I have turned away from it, but wow, but even Krishna cares about me. Well, that's why he has come as a super soul. If he were irrelevant, why would Krishna bother to come as a super soul into each and every living entity's heart, even the worm in the stool? So for Krishna, no one is irrelevant. Everybody is relevant. And his goal is everybody should be engaged in the service of Krishna. So from that perspective, that's the reality. We cannot lose sight of the reality. That one. And then if we come down to the ground reality, as I gave the example of the of my service, so there are so many different devotees that are doing different services. and I feel it. I like, let's say I go to the fridge and there's no burfi or something, at 4 o'clock. I would offer like, oh wow. Then I feel, the absence of the devotee who does that service. We don't have to try it, but we can try that where yeah, we can learn things the hard way, where we somehow we lose the association of a devotee for some reason or the other, and then we are forced to realize, oh wow, what an impact they made in our Krishna consciousness, or how relevant they were. So each one of us, not in a false sort of way. So there is the real ego. Real ego is we are all servants of Krishna, and it's not just Krishna and you. Krishna is being served in the spiritual world with unlimited other devotees. And so everybody is doing their part. Okay? Yes, Prabhuji. That's it. Yeah.
um, about significance and relevance. Our significance is that only when we are, or when we see ourselves in relation to Krishna.
Connected.
So, like the parts of the body, the finger is significant when it is connected to the body. If it's not connected, then it has no significance and no relevance. So, by seeing ourselves in relation to Krishna, we can become very significant because Krishna is significant. But when we don't see ourselves in relationship with Krishna, that it is Krishna's mercy by which I'm able to do whatever I'm able to do, then if we don't see it, then we're insignificant. Even when we see it, then we realize our insignificance anyway. We're very tiny.
Exactly.
But when we are with Krishna, even tiny can do something very significant. And that is our relevance then. Relevance is that each part of the body has its place and other parts cannot take that place. If I lose a finger, I cannot put a toe there. I mean, I'll have 5, but the toe cannot do what the finger can do. In that sense, it's relevant. So each one of us has a role to play, and others can fill our role, but still, our role and our service has its value and place. I liked his example of parts of the body going on strike. I have a question.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Just to get some discussion going. You said when we have anarthas, one should joyfully look at it and work on it in the company of devotees. But what if the anarthas actually come up only in the company of devotees? By myself, one may be doing pretty good. But what to do?
We were having this discussion in the morning. So the question is, it seems that when I'm practicing Krishna consciousness by myself, or I'm in my own bubble, things are fine. But in relationships, things come up. So then what do we do? Because one of the ways in which one can coast, or one can continue to practice devotional service even through difficult times, is by taking help of devotees. That's what Prabhu is saying. Well, we still have to, firstly we have to look inwards. Well, let's start with the spiritual conception. So we are a spirit soul. The nature of the soul is to be in relationships. It has a relationship with Krishna, but it has a relationship with other living entities also. Um, So if I have, so I'm practicing Krishna consciousness, and then I'm having, let's see, if I'm having difficulty with all relationships, that is definitely a clue, right? That it cannot be them, it has to be me. If it is all relationships, that's one. Huh? Yeah. And this second is, let's hope that's not the case. Then the second is, there is some challenge in some relationships. Okay. So then, if that is the case, then let us find at least one relationship. This is what I've learned from my limited practice of Krishna consciousness and from hearing. Even if we have one relationship, in our Krishna consciousness, that we feel safe and secure in, that relationship is enough to take us back home, back to Godhead. So let's say, at least some relationships we have. So amongst those some relationships, identify one in which somehow we can stay in that relationship. And even in that relationship, some things may come up. But again, you know, talking about it from an feelings or affects perspective, if the distress, so there is distress in a relationship, right? There's distress in a relationship. But if that is occasional, the distress is occasional and circumstantial, just one circumstance triggers it, and but then there is enough interest, there is enough, sort of, freedom to act in the relationship. So act in the relationship. Even we may see some areas, which there is some distress even in that relationship. So then continue to act in that relationship, and then look inwards as to what is this distress about. This person I trust for most part, but when this topic comes up, so if we look within, we will see what it is. We will find out that the cause of distress is actually in our own heart. It's not the other person. You know. Yeah. And then when we come to realize that, uh, don't be shameful, or don't be ashamed to admit it. That, wow, Prabhu, I was thinking, you know, it was your fault, but I'm realizing that the issue is here in my heart. You know. So of course, when the other Vaishnava, when he receives it, so he's not like, I knew it, I knew it was you, it was not me. But so then he stays compassionate. He says compassionate. He doesn't say, yeah, I knew it all along. I was just waiting for you to, share it with me and things like that. But yeah, I said, yeah, and I said, so we can say, I'm, to the best of my capacity, ability, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to serve you with whether you want to look at that anartha or you don't want to look at the anartha. I'm here. It's your call. And when you're ready, let's go. And so sometimes that Vaishnava, as the Vaishnava does, so sometimes they may even refer the Vaishnava to another person, who may have some specific, skill and like that to deal with that area. So then, on the strength of my faith with the original Vaishnava, I repose trust in the other Vaishnava. So it's a network of loving relationships. You know, so yeah. Because Prabhupada says that impersonalism is born out of frustration in relationships. You know, so we will go in that direction otherwise. I don't want relationship. Yeah. So, yeah. And if we have no one, then we are really in a crisis. But even then, we can pray to Kishori, pray to someone, and please help me. Because if we are not able to reach out to somebody, that's the most painful thing actually. That's the most painful thing. Because we are suffering, and also for the devotees also it's very painful to see us going through it. So it's painful all around. So we can pray to the deities. Somehow, you know, send me somebody who I can open my heart to. And that's how it begins typically. One compassionate Vaishnavi, they come into our life, and then other doors open, many doors open. Thank you for your question. What time is it? 8:40. Anything else, anyone? Okay, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Accept my humble obeisances.